to the rest of our Trilogy properties out there. We're broadcasting live from Twin Mills Club. Today we have a special guest, two special guests in-house from Nada's Italy. First of all, we have Susan Naito, and we also have Nada Vergili. Did I say that correctly? So Nada is in town, and so made it over here with the rest of her team to give us a short overview of how she developed in Nada's Italy, this great five-star travel company right here in Charlotte, and also give us a couple tips on how to prepare for a European vacation. So without further ado, take it away.
Well, welcome. It's good to see everyone here this afternoon. Thanks so much for the warm welcome that you always give when I come up here and have introduced Nada's Italy to all of you. It's really exciting, it's special, and I appreciate the time that all of you have taken out of your day at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, or what is it, 11 o'clock in the morning on our West Coast to join us. So thanks so much. It means a lot. We had a lucky opportunity. Nada called and said that I'm coming up to Charlotte. And so we snagged her to be able to join us at Trilogy and have all of you meet her, because that opportunity has not happened yet. So I get the wonderful chance to be able to share Nada with all of you and just let you know a little bit more about her and the company. So I welcome Nada Vergili, and she's so excited to be here at Trilogy with everyone and to see the Trilogy communities and all of you.
Grazie a tutti. Thank you all for being here. Buongiorno. Anyone speak Italian? Buonasera? Sì? Buonasera. Sì, buon pomeriggio. Bravissimo, bravissimo. Patrizio, italiano. Patrizio.
Second language, Albano.
Albano, come il cantante. So thank you so much, and yes, absolutely, thank you, Trevor, and the Trilogy community for having us here today. I'm very excited. I'm extremely impressed. This is gorgeous. When can I move in? This is absolutely amazing. So, and thank you, Susie, of course, for organizing this. So I'm excited to be here. So,
I was really excited to get her up here. She had to see what a Trilogy community was like, and they're all just like this. So as we're all here together, just kind of in a cozy afternoon, I just want Nada to be able to share with all of you, how in the heck did you ever get to the United States from that beautiful town of yours in Florence, this beautiful Renaissance city? You left there and came to the United States. How did that happen? What did you tell us?
Firenze. Who has been to Firenze? How many have been to Florence? I see a lot of hands going up. So, well, Susie, as many stories begin, mine began with love, l'amore. It was a love story. So, so that's what brought me to Charlotte, North Carolina, and I felt at home right away. And what I mostly noticed was that so many people just showered me with this enthusiasm. As soon as they heard I was from Firenze, they started to ask me questions, you know, how did you get here, and tell me about what I should see. I'm going there next month or next year. What kind of day trips can I take? And so there was this extreme enthusiasm for really anything Italian, not just travel, of course, but, you know, vino, wine. I see several of you holding glasses of wine, and the cuisine, the culture, the traditions, and the lifestyle as well. You know, la dolce vita, the good life, the sweet life. So I really appreciated that, because it made me feel welcome and it made me feel right at home. So being able to share my history, my where I came from, where I grew up with them, and the love for my country, it helped me feel connected, not just with my new friends here, but also with my country and my family back home. So it was wonderful.
Well, that's good. So Charlotte was home for a good while. So you started finding things out about the community in Charlotte. How did you ever start a tour company? What did you do? And this is one of my favorite parts.
So, to be honest with you, it was so unexpected to me because, just like I was saying, people had this, were showing such interest. And so I started to teach Italian classes. I did that for many years. I was in Charlotte for about 13 years. And so by sharing, teaching them Italian, of course they would learn Italian because they were getting ready for a trip. And so with that, a lot of practical information, information on logistics, because you're all travelers here, so logistics can be tricky, especially when you're planning for a country that you've never been to. So how to get around, booking hotels, booking this, booking that, and the food, information on local cuisine, which should I get, which should I pack. It seemed like this natural evolution into the travel industry, and so I started to, I remember I brought my first group over to Tuscany. I rented a villa in the countryside in Tuscany, and I brought my first group in 2004. And I had no intention of starting a tour company. It just kind of happened. My intention was to take a few people over there and share what I had grown up with them. My mom would come over to the villa, and she would cook everybody dinner, and she would make, because my mother still lives in Florence, so her and my parents would both come over, and it was a lot of fun. It was very, very informal, and we would do things like, I would just tell them, one morning I would wake up and say, would you guys like to go see some local wineries? And there's a cheese farmer. He's been doing this cheese all his life. They've been having this traditional farm for generations, and let's go and see it. So it was very informal, but I loved it. I loved the enthusiasm that people had, and about, the authenticity, I guess, of it.
But fun for you, too, because you were able to share a piece of her life, an important piece of your life with everybody. And for those of you that don't know, when Nada was in Charlotte, when she started, she connected with people because she was doing the Italian lessons and cooking classes, and that's how I met her. Our girls gifted us with a cooking class for an anniversary gift. So we met her back in 2007, so it's all of those people that started asking her, well, this is crazy. Why don't you show us Italy? The only way that we want to see it is through your eyes. So how special that they got to do that with you?
Well, what I find is that Italy, there's something about Italy, and for those who have traveled there, you probably know what I'm talking about. It evokes this feeling of living in the moment, living to the fullest, good food, good wine, laughter, company, going out, enjoying life. And so I wanted to transmit that, not just for those who were able to go and travel with me, but also for people over here. So I really enjoyed doing the cooking classes as well over here, because it was kind of like when I was teaching them, I could hear my mother's voice in my head, add this now in the sauce, and now you put it here. Now it just kind of replayed that in my mind. So it was wonderful being so many miles away from home.
Well, and for some of us, I'm half Italian. My dad's family came over from Italy. But the same thing, you encountered probably a lot of people who either wanted to be Italian or had family that did come from there. So you were like this connection that they could see the authenticity in it and your love of it, and so that's why they wanted to keep following you.
Well, and Susie, the thing is that when you grow up in a city such as Florence, it's one of the top destinations in the world, and I saw so many you just grow up around buses, tour bus after tour bus after tour, crowds and crowds and crowds of people all the time. So when I started to bring people to Italy, I didn't want them to have that kind of experience. I wanted them to experience something different, because that's what I wish those people that I saw on the tour buses, I wish they had that authentic experience, the local lifestyle. What does it mean to live in a city like Florence? What does it mean to live in Italy? How do the locals see travelers? travelers? How do they want, what do they want to share with visitors? It's kind of like when you think of somebody visiting from out of town here, what do you want them to truly experience of the place where you live? It's the same thing when you flip it around. So that's what, to me, was the passion, the driving force behind the way I was taking people to Italy to experience the country and the sites. Some sites, of course, that are famous around the world, but still there's a way that you can see them that still gives you that insider's perspective where you don't feel I'm just an outsider looking in, you know, and that personal aspect for me was so important. Even as I grew into an actual tour company, I didn't want to ever grow out of that personalized, that authentic feeling, that informal friendship kind of themed travel that was so important to me. So we still, to this day, small groups, small, you know, very personalized, very personal attention. The tour guides are as much part of the group as everybody else, so they're a friend. So for me, that was important, to create that local connection.
Your tour leaders, she has picked the most dynamic tour leaders. They love what they do. They're all accomplished in their own right, and they have a passion for sharing Italy as much with everyone that's on the tour as much as Nada does. And I think you really just, I can't say enough about them. I tell them, I said, I can talk to people and tell people about the tours, but they really make the magic happen when you're on the trip, and they just smooth everything out. Everything's taken care of for you. So what happened is people were so spoiled because Nada was their tour leader, right? And they just didn't, no, don't go. We don't want anybody else. We want you. And so she had to really make sure she picked people that could do as good a job as she does and care with the passion.
I remember one time I had one of our guests on, it was one of the tours that I was leading on the Amalfi Coast, and on the last day he said, you know, Nada, you have this fabulous product. We loved this tour. We loved this trip. But he's thinking, he was a CEO. He had been in business for many, many years. So he was thinking from the business perspective. He said, okay, what your challenge now is, how do you grow this business? How do you do more tours without, you know, driving yourself into the ground? And so how do you duplicate yourself? And so for me, it started a process where, okay, that's so true. I don't want the tour leader, you know, if I hand off a group to the tour leader, for them to not give travelers the experience that I like to give them.
So that's it. That's how she started her company. And now we have wonderful signature tours. The one right now that we have for Trilogy that's still open with 10 available spots is the Sèvres de France tour. So there's still availability with that. And is there anything else that you want to share with them about the company aspect of it, as far as something that's important for you, for them to know, before we go into the other?
We can go into the other portion. I just wanted to say that Trilogy, and now having seen it, of course I had spoken to Trevor before, and Susie has been talking to me about Trilogy a lot. And but now having seen it, I totally get and I appreciate even more the collaboration that we have with them, because this is truly living in the moment lifestyle. Like, it feels like, okay, live life to the fullest. I mean, I want to move in here. I do. So this is amazing. It really is. So I appreciate that so much, and I get why Trevor chose to, you know, also start this collaboration with us, because it's a perfect fit.
It is. It is. I just have to ask, how many of you have just moved in the last, let's say, 6 months? Raise your hands. That's great. That's great. There's new ones coming in all the time. I mean, yeah. So you have done so many presentations. And by the way, if any of you want to see anything else that Nada's done, or that you need other little tips, things like that, we have a YouTube station, and you can find us on YouTube with Nada, with things that she's done. But I thought it would be good, especially since we have our Venetian Splendors tour that's taking off in October, and it's full, and Trevor's going, that we talk about what do you do when you're planning for a trip to Europe, or a trip to Italy or France. What do you do? How do How do you do that?
Yeah, and by the way, if you have also want some more information, Susie is available to give you that information on the trips that we're planning. We've planned with Trilogy. You can also find out on the screen in the lobby, the touch screen.
My information
under 360, and so yeah, of course. But as far as planning a trip, so y'all look like world travelers to me, so you could probably sit here and give the presentation in my place. But you know, what I've learned throughout the years of doing this and planning trips, and we also do custom trips. So what I've seen that is, I guess, the number one challenge that people have is picking the destinations so that they don't get overwhelmed. Especially when planning a trip to Europe, there are so many places to visit, so many countries, so many destinations, so many sites. It's the easiest thing to get overwhelmed and just try to pack too much. You start with one destination and then, but we really want to see this. Oh, and look on the map, that looks pretty close as well, so let's add that one in too. I'm sure many of you have had this experience where at the end of the day you end up with this super long list. It's like, okay, how long are we going to be gone for? 8 years?
Has anybody done that here? Have you guys done that? Have you overbooked your experiences? No?
It can happen.
That's one of the nice things. I will interject here. It's one of the nice things on our tours. She's got these so well paced. They're just so nice. So.
Yes. So I like to always, I suggest, instead of overpacking your itinerary, is to pick one country and then a handful of destinations and go from there. So start with those handful, 5 destinations, and build your itinerary around those. And you can always add later, but it's harder to take out, because once you have your mindset, I have to see this, I have to see that, I have to see that, it's tricky. And you always want to allow for free time. So I like to schedule, if you're doing museums, perhaps do a museum in the morning and then keep a leisure afternoon for the rest of the day, so you have some time off instead of overbooking museum.
That's important.
Yes,
so important.
Very important. And same thing, instead of overpacking your itinerary, don't overpack your suitcase either. I'm sure we've all been there, where you overpack, you get there, it's like, and then you can't even buy a little keychain because it doesn't fit. So it's logistically, Europe can be a little tricky. It's trickier than the U.S. So when you're carrying around a suitcase, packing and unpacking can also change your experience there. So make sure to be conscious and the fact that you'll be shopping as well. And people who say they're not shoppers are the ones who fall victim. Number one, when they get there and they're like, oh, I didn't know this existed. It's amazing. I want to buy it right now. I don't have room. So
actually, pack one of those bags, the little zip kind that come up and they zip up into nothing. So if you need to, you can take that as a carry-on.
Yeah, like a little duffel bag kind of thing.
Really works.
Put your dirty laundry in there. Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah.
So what kind of a mindset do people have to have when they're traveling to Europe or traveling to Italy? What do you suggest to people?
So my view on travel is that it's really a way to open up your eyes to something unknown, and it's rediscovering life. It's rediscovering a way to look at things from a different point of view, and that can be in the ordinary, in every aspect of life, from eating, from getting around, to work, bathrooms too. I mean, for those who have been to Italy, you might notice that there's something there in the bathroom that is not here in the U.S. So I like to travel. You always want to keep that in mind. There are some travelers who travel abroad and then they expect everything to be just like it is at home. But to me, that's not really the spirit of travel. So to keep an open mind, and also notice how you react. Notice how you react to other things when you're traveling. So do I have expectations? So one of the biggest expectations people have is about cuisine, especially when traveling to Italy, because Italian food is so popular here. There is no such thing as Italian food. It doesn't exist. When you travel to Italy, we have regional food. We have local food. So you go to Firenze, Florence, there's a specific type of cuisine, specific type of dishes. There are no spaghetti meatballs in Florence. There's no, cannoli, Sicilian cannoli. You go to Sicily and have cannoli and have the best cannoli. But Italy is very regional. And so with its cuisine, it's, many people go and they have specific expectations. I'm going to Venice, I'm going to have my lasagna, or I'm going to have, no, don't have lasagna in Venice. Have seafood, have the local specialties. So I think it's very important, and it's important to do the research as well, so that you don't have disappointments when you go there. You're not like, oh, wait, I was waiting for my fettuccine alfredo, and where's that? And it's not on the menu.
So expectations are huge, right? Don't really have a lot of the expectations. Be open to new and different things.
Absolutely, yes. And enjoy those unexpected times where, why aren't they bringing the olive oil and balsamic vinegar dip at the table? This is a bad restaurant. I don't like the service. No, we don't do that in Italy. So it's and I guess an Italian restaurant thing over here, but that became very popular. But we don't do that. So it is interesting to also discover these things once you travel abroad to Italy or anywhere else. And it kind of, you compare notes in your head. Oh, that's what I expected, and this is reality.
That's true.
And I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, what I was going to say, tying into expectations as well, is one of the important things that I also, and I know these are very generic tips, but a lot of us kind of take these things for granted, and to me, travel, it's about preparation, it's about the mindset, and so many mishaps can be avoided if just kind of being conscious of the planning ahead of time. So, for instance, if you're traveling with a friend or a group of friends, make sure to ask them what they expect from the trip that you're planning. So you're planning a trip. Make sure to add, what are you trying to get out of this trip? And if they just say, I just want to have a good time, I just want to lay back, have fun, well, what does that look like to you? What is your idea of fun? Because we might have all been there where you travel with somebody and all of a sudden you want to lay out by the beach, read a book, take a nap, relax, maybe go to the spa for a little bit, and your friend wants to go, do excursions all the time, see as much as possible, and you're like, that's not what I want to do. You're going to have to do it on your own. So especially an overseas trip, I think it's particularly important to ask those questions to anybody you're traveling with, and make sure you plan your trip accordingly so that everybody is happy and satisfied when they're on the trip and when they come back.
Very, very good advice. So is there anything else with either packing or anything else that you can think of? You definitely said pack light. Shoes. Make sure there's good shoes, comfortable shoes.
Yes, and never shop for shoes before a trip. Don't go and get shoes for your trip. No, use the oldest, most broken into shoes that you have in your closet. Bring those. Those are the ones to bring. That you're not gonna have to. Don't wear high heels like I'm wearing today. You're on stilts, but definitely wear comfortable shoes, but the ones that are comfortable, that have already been, broken into, that you're used to.
And that mistake. Yeah. It's not fun. Couldn't find enough Band-Aids.
Yes, that's right. And if you get a good pair of old shoes that you've used and abused, and then you've gone on your trip, you don't want them, throw them out. Throw them out before your trip. You lighten up your suitcase. You don't go over the limit. You have room for something else. Yes, actually, that's something sometimes I do. I bring old clothing and just leave it there. So, packing light is absolutely important to me. Making it as convenient as possible. Ziploc bags. I know the packing cubes are very popular right now. I also like Ziploc bags. They're sealed. They contain everything. I put my toiletries. I put my, everything, underwear, pajamas, everything in sections. They're cheap, and everything's isolated. If you spill something in your suitcase, no worries about that.
Well, a fun fact, I actually sit on my Ziploc bags, and then I zip them up, so it's kind of like those. They just kind of down to nothing, so that works.
Yeah, exactly. They're like little, what do they call them, the vacuum bags,
Yeah, and passport. Make sure your passport is not expiring within 6 months of your travel. That's really important, because they just, with recent restrictions, they will not even let you on the plane. So that's something that's really important. Something else, too, don't forget to copy your passport, make copies, leave one at home. Also, take one with you, put it in your suitcase in a couple places, maybe in your backpack, maybe in your suitcase, and also any credit cards that you take, front and back. That's important, because if you misplace or lose or whatever, you still have that back number rather than trying to find it somewhere.
Yeah, and what I like to do is instead of keeping the photocopy with me, I actually just take a photo of it on my phone and upload it to my email address or cloud, or make sure it's a secure server, and that way I can access those documents from anywhere in the world at any time if I need them. Even if the suitcase doesn't make it, at least I'm not worried, oh my gosh, all my personal information is in there.
Great idea.
Yeah.
Great advice.
So these are, some tips. We've kept it very generic, but I'd love to hear if any of you have questions for me, whether it's about what I do or our trip packages or anything at all in general. Traveler, if you'd like to contribute a story.
Could you talk about the pros and cons of seasonal travel and what time of the year and what pros and cons of, when to go in each season?
Sure. Generically or Italy specifically? Okay, sure. So it's a wonderful question because, first of all, Italy has 4 seasons. So the climate is actually very similar to the Carolinas. So when you're preparing to pack for a trip, pack as you would pack for that time when you're going on the trip as if you were coming to the Carolinas, because the temperatures, and even if you look at the temperatures, very, very similar with Italy. With that said, there are certain destinations that are more popular during certain times of the year. So, for instance, anywhere on the coast, and Italy has a huge coastline. If you think of it, it's a boot in the middle of the Mediterranean. Anywhere on the coast, summertime, meaning from June, July, August, and first part of September are going to be the most popular times. And that's not just because international travelers, but Italians love to go to the beach, Europeans. So keep that in mind. Prices are going to be higher. Now, where do the Italians live? They live in the cities, right? So they're all going to the beach. So now in the summertime, the cities are considered low season. So, for instance, Rome, Florence, and Venice as well, the same time. So mostly July and August are actually good times to go if you don't mind a little heat. But they're considered low season because a lot of people don't travel at that time. So museums, go right in, no line, not many crowds, but there are some pros and cons to everything. So maybe not all the stores will be open because people are on vacation. Same thing with restaurants. I've seen a gelateria, a gelato shop, closed for vacation the entire month of July in Italy. I was like, okay, wait. A gelato, an ice cream shop closed in July, the hottest month of the year, when they could do big business. But, Italians they value their time off. So winter time, so in general, September, October, May, and June. So late spring and early fall are when you're going to have the mildest climate, when you can be outside, you don't have to wear a jacket, you don't have to, be sweaty all the time because it's too hot. So it's really nice. Those are beautiful months to travel. They're the best times to travel, but they can be very popular. In the winter months, those are also great opportunities to travel, especially for flights. You can get cheaper flights, and some of the cities are not as crowded, but then the climate can be a little iffy. And again, just remember the Carolinas.
Just a quick question. Can you comment about if it's anything specific to the way you dress, if you're going to the opera or the concert, times of the year, restaurants, you will walk with no socks and sandals, or you have to have a specific code of dress?
Sure. So Italians, Italy is the country of fashion, and Milano especially the capital of fashion, design. Now, I love all that. However, when you're traveling, you want to be comfortable. This is what I tell our guests is, wear what makes you comfortable. Don't worry about, am I going to stick out like a sore thumb? Am I going to this and that? I'm not going to fit in with the locals. Wear what you're comfortable wearing. The last thing you want to do is be abroad and test a new look out. And then all of a sudden you're like, I don't know about this. And you're thinking of that instead of enjoying the moment. With that said, there are some guidelines. For instance, if you go to the opera, just like here, it's an upscale event, so you want to wear a nice, suit and tie, or a nice gown, something, that's appropriate for that. As far as restaurants go, there aren't as many restrictions in Italy, to be honest with you, when it comes to dining out. So again, it really is what makes you comfortable. Dinner is considered a little bit more elegant, if you will, compared to lunchtime, obviously, just like it is here for the most part. But I recommend wearing layers. Always, it's easy to dress up or dress down, especially with a pair of black pants. Black pants or dark wash jeans. You can't go wrong. You cannot go wrong with, with a pair of nice black, comfortable, even black, just black pants and dark wash jeans. You will fit in with the locals, and you can dress them up or down with a nice shirt or a t-shirt, depending on where you're going. Very versatile. And wear layers. So if it gets a little chilly at nighttime, you can put on a nice light jacket, or during the day it's warmer, take it off. Does that answer?
Back to the climate. Is there a rainy season?
Yeah, so usually the rainy season begins towards mid to late November, and so it goes through December, January, February, and March. Now, I don't want to say it's a rainy season, meaning that it rains every day, but it's the time when it most likely will. Summers can be quite dry in Italy, so once you start getting into May, June, July, it can be quite a dry climate. Yes. So, but, just like we've had here, you can have those odd years where, it's warm in January and it's just an odd thing, but that's not the rule in general. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah. More.
Do you recommend, do you recommend getting the global entry cards to get back in?
That is one of the best things I've ever done in my life. I love global entry. Yes. Now, global entry is for the U.S.
For the U.S.
So it also is part of the same program as the TSA pre-check. So you zip right through the security line. So that's obviously not just to go abroad, but within the U.S. as well. I love it. I love it, love it. I think it's worth it. And when you travel abroad, when you come back to the U.S., that's when you use your global entry. And so you go through a kiosk most of the time. You scan your passport, and again, you go see the agent and go right, get your bag, and you're done. I love it.
But aren't some of the countries, isn't Germany also starting to recognize it? And I thought another one.
To be honest with you, I'm not sure that is possible. Every country in Europe is different. They call it the European Union, but it's very fragmented still, and they don't have a unified system yet, at least, to keep track of security, and every country does their own thing. So it is very possible that Germany, I don't know if they're recognizing the U.S. global entry or if they have their own system, but within the U.S. and coming back to the U.S., it definitely helps. And I've seen the lines at Charlotte Airport get longer and longer and longer throughout the years, so it is a huge perk. Yeah.
The other question I have is handicap accessibility, which Europe is not known for.
And you're absolutely right. It's not. And if you just think of how many centuries back the cities were built, it's literally layers upon layers of building and roads and sidewalks. And so everything is smaller. For those who have traveled to Europe, you know what I'm talking about. Everything is smaller. Buildings are smaller. But that's what we love about it. You can walk everywhere. The historic centers are very compact. And with that said, there is, unfortunately, it does require quite a bit of adapting when traveling, because oftentimes you won't find ramps, wheelchair accessibility. It's tricky. It's very tricky. And you think of cities such as Venice with over 400 bridges in the historic center. So, you think of places such as Pompeii, down near Naples, the Amalfi Coast with all the steps. It's if you are planning a trip and need that accessibility, I would highly, highly recommend working with a trusted either a travel agency or somebody like us who have direct contacts, or going through a trusted source, somebody that you know who can contact the vendors directly, make sure they're prepared so there are no surprises when you get there. Yes.
I have a question. How about booking my airfare to Europe? Any secrets about getting a good price, a good seat, airline or airport preference?
So out of Charlotte, they do have direct flights from Charlotte to Rome, so you can get on that with American Airlines. I also have a soft spot for Lufthansa. Lufthansa has a really good service, as many of you might know. They go through Munich, which is a fabulous airport. So even though I have to make an extra stop, for me, since I usually fly in and out of Florence so I can spend a few days with my mother. Florence has a small airport. It's not international. I have to make a stop somewhere in Europe anyway, so I prefer doing that in Munich. I also like Swiss Air. I am a fan of Swiss Air, Lufthansa. Just because of the heightened security measures and the logistics, Paris can be a little complicated. So if I had to make a non-recommendation, nothing against any Parisians if there's any here, but it's just the airport itself can be tricky, and you might end up walking from one side to the other, from the international to the domestic terminal, and you're walking and walking. And I have lost a connection. I have missed a connection in Paris because of just the length of getting from one side to the other, and I had plenty of time. So just not a huge fan of that. But as far as airfare goes, I would say start looking, if you're using points, the earlier the better. So a year, even more if possible. Sometimes they don't publish the airfare that early, but as soon as it is, go ahead, book it with your points. If you're not using points, I would say between 6 months at the earliest, because the flights can still, the airfare can still fluctuate at that point, and it can actually dip after the 6-month mark. So not too late, not too early. So around 6 months is a good time to start booking your airfare. I see a lot of couples in here when you're booking. What I like to do is if you're in a row with 3 people, book the 2 seats, one by the window and one on the aisle. And if there's nobody that books that seat in the middle, then you have extra space. If there is, they're most likely going to switch with you. But at least you open it up to the universe. Maybe we're lucky we'll get an extra spot. Yes. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Grazie. And feel free to, we can hang out a little bit longer, and I can answer more questions if you have any other question or you want some information. Susie's here, of course. And thank you so much, Trevor. Grazie. Thank you to all the Trilogy communities who have tuned in. So I appreciate it. Grazie. It's Sarah. Yes, thank you, Sarah.
But just thank you so much. And as Nada said, the information is out there. My name and number is on everything for everybody. So even if after this you have questions about any of the tours or even other travel questions that you get back home, that you get back home and think about that you forgot to ask, just call and I will find that information out for you if I don't know. But it's really a pleasure to meet everybody and everybody that's tuned in across the community. We really appreciate it, the other communities. But stick around for some wine here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.